The earth yawned, trembling under the steady fall of rain. In its barren mouth, two gladiators clashed, their blades singing a lullaby to the earth, whom lay with its jaws agape, ready to swallow the victim in death. After all, only one would leave alive from such a furious fight to the grave. Alfa drew a quick breath before bringing up his blade to meet his opponents. He had sworn not to fight again, but this battle had dragged him in unwillingly. It was not a friendly match for power, fun, or honor. This was life and death. The pale green warrior fiddled with his hilt, letting a burst of purple flames rocket from its end. He was blown into a rage, a whirling fury of sparks and jet fire, bearing down upon the younger fighter. Umbrella deployed his namesake's frills, deflecting the old man's well-placed blows. His muscles tightened as he strained to keep up and keep his stand against the attack. He could feel his weapon holding, but he couldn't deny the fact that the damage was taking its toll. Keeping in mind, this elder was an experienced warrior, the best of his age, Umbrella held his guard up, swiftly rolling to the side, letting a startled Alfa fall forward from his own momentum. Spinning, the tip of his weapon sliced neatly through the skin of water, its splayed droplets bringing a gleam to its sharp edge just before it drove towards Alfa's head. His age-worn body was incapable of pulling back in time. He jerked his head back sharply, letting the umbrella just graze his wrinkled cheek, a clean line glistening scarlet. Before he could even fall it back into stance, Umbrella fired a shot at him, lighting his torso with a flash of blue. He watched Alfa flail helplessly as he flew back, before spinning into control in a spurt of jet flames. Hurtling down towards Umbrella, he adjusted his sword, keeping the point aimed. A blue light emitted from behind Umbrella. Alfa's peripheral vision caught glimpses of the rectangular wing blades flying past as they ran back to their master. A cold, sharp pain in his shoulder forced a surprised shriek of agony to hollow from his raspy throat, tipping him off balance, careening away from his target. He collided into the earth, whom happily embraced him in the shower of small rocks and grit. Dust coated him in fine layers, stinging his wounds, brushing off the grasping tendrils of smoke whom beckoned him to join the earth in final rest, resisting their temptations. No, his soul burned with a fiery youth, the urge to survive, a determination blazing stronger than the body it was encased in. Before he could remove the foreign object from his shoulder, a black figure charged him, bowling him onto the ground. Blue light licked at his gashed cheek, energy charging at the umbrella's tip as the wielder closed his fingers firmly around the old man's throat with his free hand. Umbrella's eyes shone with an expressionless purple as he tightened his grip, watching his victim shake with coughs, his old frail hand clawing desperately at his for oxygen. A few feet away, the jet sword lay abandoned in the wet ground, already being buried by water and mud. Too busy with his cornered prey, Umbrella failed to notice the two stickmen making their way across the battlefield. Nazul leapt at Umbrella, fists clenched as he scored a blow across his face. Umbrella was stunned by the new attacker, releasing Alfa, whom threw a strong kick at his gut, forcing him back. Umbrella tried to fire with his weapon, but found himself surrounded by the three. Alfa dove for his sword, coming back on his feet swiftly. Giving a thankful nod to the other two gladiators, he tentatively reached for the blade in his shoulder. With a grimace, he pulled it free, spilling droplets of ruby onto the wet, rainy floor, a blood offering. Umbrella quietly cursed mentally as he surveyed the new threats with predatory eyes. His fingers slipped firmly around the trigger of his namesake. Just as Nazul stepped forth, gesturing Tension Maru to follow, Umbrella fired 5 quick shots, 2 at the newcomers, and 1 at the ground before Alfa. The world shook as Alfa felt his teeth rattle in his jaws, spiraling back. With the intruders crushed in heavy clouds of dust, Umbrella emerged, the wind blowing back the smoke, unfurling around this warrior, presenting it to the world as if daring anyone to defeat him. Alfa narrowed his eyes, the rain kneading against his sore, weary body, washing down his old bones. Their gazes locked. As if on an arranged countdown, both raised their weapons and charged, ready to finish this with all they had. Blood bloomed between them like a red rose, like petals, flew in all directions, a final silent battle cry. Alfa and Umbrella were released from the smoke, the sparks of sword against blade fading like the tension. Alfa stood, crouched slightly with one good arm, twisting his blade into the gap between Umbrella's blade sections. Ripping his weapon in one fluid motion, Alfa stood, watching as Umbrella stared blankly at his disarmed weapon. The wind died, falling silent as the terrain watched in wonderment of what could happen next. The clouds seemed to shut their mouths, bringing an abrupt end to its downpour, like the battle below, too, watching, waiting. The two stood there. The only sounds present were their ragged breaths, the blood roaring in their ears, and the overworked beating of their hearts. Then the first words were spoken. "Don't kill people, kid," Alfa huffed, a shaky chuckle of old age and exhaustion. "It might not get to you at first, but it will. Trust me, I know." The black figure, beaten and drained of strength, simply stared at him, incapable of wrapping his head around the idea of talking to the one he had failed to terminate. "You don't know me," Umbrella sputtered in slight disbelief, and the smallest tremor of fear, standing there unarmed. The green stick man found the youngster's response slightly amusing in the haze of after-tension. "I know because I did once. But it's not just a game. A life is a life, you know." Alfa held a tired smile before turning, swinging his trusty sword to rest contentedly on his shoulder, walking away. After all, let death take an old man when it's his time to go, okay? Umbrella watched his assigned target disappear into the rocky terrain. What had happened? Why was he still alive? Left there to soak in the blood spilled over this mission? He failed. This mission was unsuccessful. He silently stared at his ruined weapon before the roaring of the helicopter screamed above.